Hello guys, my name is John Mungai and today we are going to talk about money. It has many names. Some call it cash. Others, other names, many names, hundreds of names. But let's just stick to the normal money, cash. So, I've heard that people say money makes the world go round. And I would agree with that statement because at the end of the day, money is the reason why majority of us are working. Some sacrificing their lives. Nobody knows what tomorrow holds, but apparently money will help us to have a better tomorrow. That's what it seems. That's what people are hoping for. That money is the great messiah. We are going to talk about what money is, the evolution of money from the Stone Age era. What were our ancestors using? Stick around until the end and I will make sure to destroy your ignorance. So let's begin with the basics. What is money? So in layman's language, money is simply a medium of exchange, either paper notes or banknotes or coins. That is what basically money is. But where did it come from? Because in the beginning, let me be like the preachers or the word of God. In the beginning, it was not so. Our ancestors in the prehistoric days were not using paper notes and coins. Throughout history, the concept of money has dramatically changed. From the barter system of the Stone Age era up to now, the complex fiat currency system, of which majority of us even don't know what that is. Each evolution tells a story of human innovation, of society's change, and most importantly, the economy's necessities. At the end of the day, every change, every adaptation, every evolution is because of a certain need, a certain human need. So, let's begin with the earliest form of currency, what is commonly referred to as the barter system. If you are fortunate enough to go to school, and I believe most of us have, we learned of something called the barter trade. So barter trade, I would say, is a form of exchange of goods and services. You come with eggs, I give you milk. You come with meat, I give you baskets. You come with baskets, I give you fish. So that was how barter trade used to work. And our ancestors back in the Stone Age era used to use this mode of transaction. There weren't any papers or banknotes there. There weren't any coins at that time. So the only thing they could do was use what they had. So if I had eggs and I needed milk, I would just look for somebody who had milk and exchange. That was how barter trade system worked. Now, our ancestors survived for a bit with that system, but as all of us know that every invention, every system has its limitation. And one of the biggest limitations with the barter trade system was that it was hard to find somebody with something or with the thing you wanted. Let me give you a simple example. Let's say let me use an example that most of you can relate to. Let's say I had a poultry. I had chickens. I raised chickens. And those chickens gave me a lot of eggs. A lot of eggs. And the only thing that I had was eggs and had nothing else. And I needed milk. And in my area or location, there wasn't anybody who had any milk. So it was hard for me to exchange with the need or with the thing that I needed. That was one of the biggest limitations of barter trade. As the inventive human beings we are, we could not let such a limitation take us back. So we thought, how could we be able to overcome this limitation? And this is where something called commodity money comes into play. By around 3000 BCE, before the Common Era or before Christ, our ancestors decided to look for a better monetary system. And this is where they came up with the commodity money. Commodity money, what is it? Commodity money simply means using items with intrinsic value as money. These are items or things such as salt, grains, or even sometimes livestock. So items or commodities which were mostly valued and widely used would be the ones used as money. If you wanted to buy a piece of land, you just give salt, or you give livestock, or you'd give grain, whichever one was most valued, and the people would accept. Now, this shift allowed for more standardized exchange of goods and services. Now, this commodity thing was used by Sumerians in the early civilizations of Mesopotamia. Now, that is one of the first civilizations to ever be recorded, which used this commodity money, facilitating trade for their thriving economies at that time. This was a good thing. Fast forward to 600 BCE, to a group of people called Lydians, who belong in a place which today is known as Turkey. These guys invented another form of money called metal coins. These ones I believe most of you have seen either in movies or in libraries or in museums, whichever ones. No. So what they did was they minted metal alloys to form coins, which were used as money at that time. So the common metal was electrum, which was an alloy of silver and gold. That is a mixture of gold and silver. So they minted that coin and they sculptured, or they just drew the face of the monarch or the king of that place, which now, and that coin became the money at that time. These coins provided a more standardized way of buying and selling things, which made the economy stable and helped advance the monetary system. And I believe this one was mostly influenced by the leaders and by the lords of that place, the kings that is, who governed the country. So kudos to them for helping in the revolutionizing of money. By the 7th century, during the Tang dynasty in China, another mode of money called the paper money emerged. I believe all of you know what paper is. So this basically was like promissory notes, whereby the notes would stand for money. Let's say you have like 1,000 coins in the banks of those days. So the bank would provide you with a note that signified, or that piece of paper signified that that amount of money. So let's say a note would promise that this amount of money would be paid to you. So if you went to the bank with that promissory note, you would be given that amount of money. So that's how China in the Tang dynasty used to operate. It became a means of exchange by the 11th century, meaning a lot of people adopted that mode because it was easier to carry papers, it was easier to make them, compared to coins, which is a lot harder. So a lot of people adopted it, and it is spread so far and wide, even reaching the Western European countries, that is. This innovation spread via what was known as the Silk Road, thereby revolutionizing the way money works. And it spread far and wide. Fast forward to the 19th century. And this is where nations all over the world adopted what was known as the gold standard, whereby the currency, remember now we've come from barter trade to commodity money to metal coins to paper money. So that paper money, which was printed depending on which country you were from, so that paper money was now linked to gold, thereby calling this the gold standard. So the currency was linked to gold. So the government at that time would be able to agree on the price of gold. And so that price of gold would be measured with the money. Let me give you an example. 1 piece of gold or 1 kilogram of gold was worth, this is an example of course, I don't mean this is what exactly this piece of gold is worth, 1 kilo of gold is worth. But for the sake of an example, let me use 1 kilogram is equivalent to $100. This was decided by the government of those countries. And so what the government would do, they would come and pile up gold, a lot of gold. And let's say they piled up gold, or like let's say 1,000 kilograms worth of gold. And I've said 1 kilo is what? 10,000. So they would be able to print notes worth 1,000 kilos of gold. So that's how the gold standard was. And they would not be able to print more money if they had less gold. So the more gold they had, the more money they printed. That was the gold standard. In the 1930s, something called the Great Depression happened in the United States of America. This is where the economy was in crisis. Inflation was on the rise. Businesses were not doing well. Businesses were failing. People were losing jobs. People were not able to feed their families, to provide shelter and the basic needs in the society. So what happened is the president of that time, by the name Franklin D. Roosevelt, implemented something called the Emergency Banking Act, which prohibited people to privately own gold. So if you were a random citizen at that time in the United States of America, you were prohibited from owning gold. Later on, they came up with another act where everybody who had gold was required to exchange it for dollars or the currency at that time, which was the dollars, and which they did. And now this is where now the money was now linked to the gold you had. So if you had like that gold you had, let's say you had gold necklaces, you are required to exchange that gold. You give to the banks, the central bank of the United States, and the bank would give you the equivalence in notes, the banknotes that they were making. So this move was indeed aimed at stimulating the economy, which it did actually. But what it did was it gave the Federal Reserve, or the central bank, or the people, or the organization that controls money, the printing of money in the United States, power to print more money and to control the spending and the usage of money. Well, that time it helped the economy grow and it alleviated the economic crisis. A lot of people critiqued this system, saying that it would not be able to stand the test of time, and true to their words, it did not, because they realized that this system was not really favoring or favorable to majority of the people. The then President Nixon of the United States, in the year 1971, decided to take the government of the United States off the gold standard, seeing that they had no enough gold and they needed money. So what would they do? They decided to take the government or the dollar off the gold standard, meaning that no longer would the dollar be linked to gold, but it would be linked to whatever the government said. And they had power to do so because after the World War, the Second World War that is, the United States of America was the remaining global superpower. After all the others were greatly affected and they were at loss. So being the superpower, it called the shots and decided, since we call the shots, we will decide what this currency will be valued at. So trust us. And they decreed it, and it was like so. And so what happened was, during this economic crisis, countries like France decided, hey, we don't trust the American government because we see that they are having a bit of trouble managing the economy. We don't want them keeping our gold. So they decided to come and send their ships to come and bring back all their gold. And this was where now the President Nixon decided to really take their country off the gold standard, leading to the current financial or monetary system. This is called the fiat currency. Fiat currency is simply the banknotes that you use right now. The ones that have numbers 10, 100, 1,000, and so on and so forth. The coins that you use, that is fiat money. Fiat money is money that has no intrinsic value. The money's value comes from a government decree and the trust which the people of that nation give the government. So my friends, today we live in a fiat system. The dollar, the euro, the pound, sterling pound, the Australian dollar, the Chinese yuan, the Japanese yen, the Kenyan shillings. That is fiat system. From barter system to the fiat system, we have truly advanced a lot. And We are very lucky, you and I, who are privileged to be alive in the year of our Lord 2024. We are witnessing another innovation. This is called digital currency. Currencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, and so on and so forth. Pioneers such as Satoshi Nakamoto, who came up or founded Bitcoin in 2008, have spearheaded this new innovation, which I believe in the current years will be the norm, such as it has been with fiat currency and the gold standard before it. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't know what the future holds, but what we see is that innovation keeps on happening, and the systems that we use now might not be used in the future. So for you who doesn't understand these things, it is good for you to understand them, learn them, because at the end of the day, if you are going to make money and if you are going to be successful at making money, one thing you have to do is you have to understand what money is, where it comes from, and why it is used the way it is. Thank you very much, and I hope I have enlightened you. See you next time, and have a nice day.